Mic check one. Can you guys do a mic check? All right.
Welcome to the...
Alrighty, guys, we are having some technical difficulties, so you guys are gonna be able to let us know live whether or not it's working. I assume you guys can hear me. The question on everybody's mind is whether or not you can hear Dyer and Timber. Nope, it is still just me. All right, guys. Well, this has been a joy and a blast. Bear with us. Please stand by. It'd be really lovely if there was a way to actually test Streamlabs before it went live. No, there's not. Can you guys hear me? I think I can't hear you now. Nope. Now I can hear you, but that's because I switched it back. Yes. Nope. Here. Mic check one, mic check two. Can you guys do mic check? Now I can hear
Mic check one, mic check two. How's Mike doing?
Mic check Alpha. Mic check Bravo.
Nice.
Mic check one, mic check two. Can you guys do mic check?
Mic check one, mic check two. How's Mike doing?
Oh, I think we can hear you
Mic
now.
check Alpha. Mic check Bravo.
I believe it is fixed. Alrighty. Everybody says Dyer is heard and they are excited about
Yay.
it. Dyer, why don't you tell everybody what it is that we're here to do today? Because it may appear that we were just here to solve technical difficulties, but we did in fact have something else planned today. Everybody says
Wait, you guys want to do a show today? Fuck, why didn't anyone tell me? I would have prepared notes. Oh, look at where are these? So, welcome back, Wolfpack. Dyer Wolf here for our weekly news recap behind enemy lines on YouTube, where speech is not free and the truth is demonetized. And of course, alongside me is our producer and co-host, Fox Trevize.
Hello. Thundra says that our volumes are maybe not synchronized. Thundra, can you be specific as to who is louder and who's quieter? And I will adjust those as we go on. But I am no, I'm not going to lie. I'm pissed off that all this stuff broke right before stream.
Yeah, you're human. It's okay to be pissed off about something that would piss anyone off.
I am upset.
Don't worry, I'm sure the infuriating news we have to just cover today will not make that any worse.
Oh yes. Yes, of course.
Also with us today is Timberwolf. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
So Timberwolf very graciously was willing to throw himself on the sword and fill in for me with very little preparation because there was a chance I wasn't going to be able to be here today, and I very much appreciate you being willing to fill in. And he's going to be here for the show and do some of the notes with us. So again, this show is made possible by people like you, kind of like PBS's catchphrase.
Except for it's a choice whether or not you support us. PBS just uses tax dollars that you did not get a choice in sending them.
We are not taxing you. We are supported completely by how much you choose to give us. We don't get ad revenue. So thank you very much for everyone who donates to the channel. That includes, but is not limited to, Ori Main, Nathan, Cameron, Tetris Freak, Slowpoke, Golem, Lone Fury, Thundra, Erikin, who is female, by the way, Strong Arm, Hellraiser Zaylon, and White Lion, and of course Timberwolf, who's been a big supporter of the channel and helps us out on the Discord. So he is not new. Also, if you don't support us financially, you still can help us out a lot by doing just a few small things that a lot of you guys do, and we very much appreciate it. That is liking, sharing, subscribing, or following whatever the thing is and whatever service you're watching us on right now. By sharing our content is how we grow. No other way, because the algorithms hate us.
Yes. Howitzer, the super chats could be tax deductible. We'll let you and the IRS decide that, but I would say there's no harm in giving us a super chat and finding out later.
Actually, so I can tell you now, and I want to make sure we'll give you bad legal advice. So no, super chats are not tax deductible.
God dang it, Dyer! You're supposed to say I don't specifically recall. Did you learn nothing from all of the Clinton hearings?
Well, I want the people who donate to us to get audited.
Very kind of you.
And they might stop supporting us, and also probably will hurt their lives in some way.
Thundra sent a non-tax deductible lemon. Thank you very much, Thundra.
Thank you very much. You owe the country about 10 cents now.
Yes.
Anyway, so so we don't have a funny video to start off the show, so we're going to move into our first story. But again, please take the time to share this video to help us grow. We very much appreciate it, and let's move along.
Man, this lady's a looker here. All right. Texas professor, who I'm assuming is this lady, she was fired for asking Trump for help with illegal immigration. Oh, that sounds sad. All right. Earlier this year, you may have heard that a Texas high school teacher was fired by the Dallas-Fort Worth Independent School District because she complained about illegal immigration in the Texas school system. She was painted in the media as a racist, and she was accused of making public anti-immigration statements. My goodness, I think that's like, isn't that in the Constitution that you're not allowed to do that? It's sure it is. For these reasons that the school board decided to fire her.
However, the media, and particularly the left wing, have a bad habit of conflating opposition to illegal immigration with opposition to immigration in general. There is a massive difference. That nuance is the difference between a racist statement and bringing up a very real problem. That is also a crime. Here is what the teacher, Miss Georgia Clark, a lifetime veteran and probably tenured educator, said that got her fired. Now, you need to understand that Miss Clark is older, more seasoned, and didn't seem to understand how Twitter works. She did not realize her tweets were public. She thought she was sending private messages to Trump by tagging him in a tweet, or to Trump's administration. She tweeted directly to Trump saying, "Mr. President, I asked for assistance in reporting illegal immigrants in the public school system. And what I received was an alarming tweet from someone identifying himself as your assistant, followed by a second tweet from the same person. Now, that was at the very beginning. She still thought every tweet was a communication straight to the administration, but because it was a public statement, somebody who wasn't Trump, some troll, responded to her.
Man, I take back what I said about her look. She looks like a sweet teacher that I'm sure was very good. I'm sure lots of students love her, and she just has she's very innocent about technology. Let's see. Apparently,
like
what's that?
She looks like my grandma.
There you go. See, sweet old lady. Apparently, some troll had responded to her tweet to the president, and she didn't understand why. She went to say the Dallas-Fort Worth Independent School District is loaded with illegal students from Mexico, and that this had led to drug dealers being on campus. She said that drug dogs had found drugs, but the authorities had refused to do anything about it. She also explained that she was requesting assistance from Trump directly. The state education organization and the teachers organizations had refused to protect or help her as a whistleblower. Unfortunately, her requests for assistance were public and resulted in the school board that she was upset at seeing them and firing her. Again, the Democrats, and we can pretty easily, even in Texas, we can pretty easily assume that the school board is packed with Democrat voters because that's how teachers unions work. We get to see how the Democrats actually feel about whistleblowers. You know, if her name was Charmella, perhaps she would have maybe fared a little better.
You got to understand that even though Texas is mostly red now, those big cities like Dallas and Dallas-Fort Worth, Fort Worth is right next to Dallas, they are very liberal because that's where all the liberals that are leaving California are going is into the big cities in Texas. So if that school board is very, very liberal. And she not only they're not willing to protect her as a whistleblower, she'd seen that anyone who made a complaint was crushed and were not protected, and she couldn't trust that her own teachers union or that the school board would actually listen to or to any complaint of hers. And if she did complain, she knew they would punish her. That's why she tried to go to the administration. But really, what did she do that was wrong? She didn't mock the immigrants. You can see the tweets she put on. I think you have that on the screen right now, right? Where you can. The next post should be.
There we go.
So here are her tweets. She's not mocking them. She's not, making fun of Mexicans or immigrants. She's not using, any kind of offensive language. What she was doing was she was reporting actual crimes. She was reporting people that had illegally entered the country and were using public services, and people who were selling drugs to kids on campus. The school district not only fired her for reporting legitimate crimes, they also turned a blind eye to these crimes happening in their schools. What happened to the compassionate Democrats who care about the welfare of children? I say sarcastically about the political party running on the platform of post-birth abortions.
He said, ironically and irately. It was a massive miscarriage of justice that she was fired for reporting real crimes, very real, provable, tangible crimes. They essentially fired the teacher that cared the most about the kids she'd taken care of and had gone to such lengths that she even made a Twitter account that she clearly had no idea how that worked. Which that says to me that it was a big step for her that she thought that this was the last thing that she could possibly do. This was her last route to getting something done, was to getting on Twitter and talking to Trump directly. Because she had tried more traditional routes, and those had done nothing. And she was the only one that was willing to stand up and say something. I mean, she clearly, the story would have been, this teacher and 2 or 3 others all got fired because they all stood up together. No, it was just her. And clearly nobody else stood up for her. This is something that I would imagine would be strike worthy, right? If the teachers unions are supposed to go on strike to protect teachers from being wrongfully fired, and I think that a teacher who's trying to keep the kids safe being fired because she's trying to keep kids safe, I would think that that's a reason to strike. Jeez.
Yeah, it really says something that when she was initially fired, that the teachers union said and did nothing.
I'm sure they very much liked her dues that she's been paying them.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the story does not end there. On the 25th of November, a Texas court ruled that Miss Clark was fired, get this, illegally.
Yeah. In the decision, Texas Commissioner of Education Mike Morath wrote that. That sounds like a Middle Earth name. I am Lord Mike Morath.
What class do you think he is?
Probably a wizard. So he wrote that Georgia Clark should get her job back and receive back pay and benefits, or receive 1 year's salary. The court's ruling determined that Ms. Clark had not waived her First Amendment rights in her employment contract, which is lucky because you can write a contract to have someone give up their First Amendment rights in certain circumstances. But in this case, the contract that she signed did not say that she was not allowed to make political statements of this sort outside of work.
I gotta go check my contract with you, Dyer, real quick. I'll be right back.
It's several thousand pages of me, you saying I'm allowed to do a lot of terrible things to you.
Does that include getting rid of the First Amendment?
All the amendments.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, so even the ones that don't make sense. So she also was tweeting after duty hours, so they couldn't make the argument that she was saying these things during her official duties. And then lastly, they said that Clark had exercised her constitutional right to present grievances to government officials, which everyone is allowed to do, no matter what their job is. They also warned that ruling against Clark may have a chilling effect that would discourage public employees from communicating with elected officials in the future. Imagine, if this is illegal, if you can be fired for this, that means every public employee could also be fired for the same thing.
How come I get the feeling that if she had gone to an Antifa rally and was smacking kids with a bike clock and sending Trump death threats on Twitter, that she would not have gotten fired in the same way?
Okay, do you remember that one Asian professor who was
I was thinking exactly of her, the by any means necessary girl that was in Tucker. I think she was a high school teacher too, and she was out there doing all that stuff.
She was assaulting a guy who was doing nothing to defend himself, and caught clearly on video, no face mask or anything. And then the freaking Democrats and left-wing activists were saying that she shouldn't be fired. They were defending her to the death, saying that what she was doing was completely morally right.
Yeah, because Orange Man Bad is the only morals that they have.
Yeah, so this one guy who isn't Trump, who's done nothing wrong, who just happens to support Trump, it's okay to violently assault him because Orange Man Bad. Wow.
They're saying the audio is choppy.
Your audio.
No, me. Restart the audio engine because that worked last time, or it'll break everything.
Trust.
Alrighty, guys. Let me know if you can hear me still, and then Dyer, would you like to say something?
Yeah. Edit the stream. It's really hard when it's all choppy, so I probably won't. Just saying.
The choppiness is gone. Yay! That means that the resetting the audio driver while we were live didn't break everything. That's good to know.
You know what I am realizing so far this far into our show is we need to invest money into getting Timberwolf a body.
We do. I was going to say I had a joke all lined up for that, but the technical difficulties precluded me from having time. And yes, Timberwolf is a disembodied floating head because
very large.
Yes.
Disembodied head.
Yeah, because I couldn't. There was no way for me to get him lined up to be proportional. I've got a system how to get all the avatars proportional to each other, but there was no point in getting Timber proportional because he didn't have a body to proportion, and so now he's just this giant floating head.
So correct me if I'm wrong. You got this character from Eve, right?
It was Monster Hunter World.
Oh, okay.
You could have screenshotted it low.
I can, but the outfits look really.
There was
dumb.
I did have a thought. I didn't act on it, but I did have the thought of duplicating Dyer's body and then putting Timber's head onto it.
That'd be funny. Download the game Eve, make a character. Actually, I don't think you have to download the game to make the character. You can do it on the website, I think. Make the character and just take a picture of it. They have a really great character engine. Anyways, full body too. So let's move on.
Alrighty. Do I got to read this part? I do got to read this part. The ruling sets a very good precedent for protecting public employees in conducting political activities on their own time. This ruling also further protects whistleblowers that go about whistleblowing in the wrong way. Wrong way.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not really how you whistleblow. You don't just tweet the president to whistleblow. Just so I mean,
in theory, she accidentally called the equivalent of a press conference, right? So there's precedent for that, where people try to go through the normal channels of saying like, hey, like there's a legal problem, and their superiors aren't doing anything about it. They can't get the cops to do anything about it. Nobody's doing anything about it. So they're like, all right, well, we're going to hold a public press conference, and I'm just going to tell the world, and then see if that happens. That's basically what she did unintentionally, was just held a public press conference. So
yeah, but the courts can't let her be punished because basically she tried and failed to get the government-supported organization she belongs to respond to a crime, and they refused to. And if they then allow, if the government and the courts allow that organization to then punish her for trying to report this, now no one's going to report crimes that are being ignored by the school district.
It also needs to be not just that she is not punished and that she's made whole for the time that she lost by getting reimbursed. Whoever the group of people were that decided that it was right to fire her, they are the criminals here, because what they're trying to make this look like is, oh, okay, like, we're going to pretend that what you did was morally wrong, but like, we're not going to actually punish you for it legally. But, wink, wink, nod, nod. Everybody knows that it was kind of your fault here. But the true crime, the actual crime that was committed here was firing her for her enacting her First Amendment rights. And also for her trying to, basically this was obstruction of justice. She was trying to get justice enacted, and the people who were not helping her with that and who fired her because she was trying to get justice for these kids, they were obstructing justice. So to the extent that anybody committed a crime here, it was definitely that school board. And I think that the proper resolution of this is that they need to have some kind of charge stuck on them, saying that, not only is what you did not okay, we need to, again, make an example of you like you were going to try to make an example of her, and set the precedent for other school boards that there's going to be consequences for you if you start, screwing over people's rights like this.
Yeah, at the very least, you could interpret these events as a school board being derelict in their duties, at the very least. But it's more likely that they've actually committed the crimes in refusing to act on the crimes they're aware of.
Well, and it's likely that if they have an awareness that there's the illegal problems aside, if there's drugs on campus that people are aware of, there's stuff not being done, that is aiding and abetting if the school board's been made aware of it and nothing's being done about it.
And I can't imagine any of the teachers, sorry, teachers, any of the parents who have kids going to the schools are very happy about, drug dealers coming on campus and selling drugs to their kids. I really hope these school board members don't stay on the school board very long.
Yeah, mother's against tweeting about crime.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah.
So this is not the end of the story, unfortunately. The Fort Worth ISD officials said they would appeal Morath's decision back in Middle Earth, adding they believe they had good cause for firing Clark. I disagree.
Are you kidding me? They're doubling down on it. Yeah, like lock those people up. I was thinking just like give them like a fine or like give like a little misdemeanor or something like that. But if they're doubling down on it, throw the book at them. Jesus.
Oh, I sure hope so. So they very likely plan on taking this to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, however, which is a lot of conservative justices on it right now, are very likely
what would their case be? What would their case be?
No case. This is completely idiotic. I don't know what their case is.
Their legal theory would be that they have the right to fire a teacher for trying to stop a drug ring in her school. What kind of precedent would that set? I don't even know how you would argue that.
You're only confused because it's factually wrong, but you're forgetting that it's morally correct.
Yes.
Well, if she would have just said they were Russian children, they probably would have hopped on it so fast.
Yeah, they're afraid that because she was criticizing illegal immigration, that it's going to be interpreted as being a hate for immigrants. And even though that interpretation would be wrong, they're like, oh, it's going to probably hamper her ability to teach, and people are going to be protesting the school district. Well, too fucking bad. If they're protesting against the school district for actually reporting real crimes, then you know what? Too bad.
I will close with, if somebody in her area would be so kind as to make her a GoFundMe, because the left, they get to borderline attempted murder against people, and they get to set up $1 million GoFundMes. They get to go parade the Supreme Court around about Kavanaugh running rape rings when he was a teenager, and they get $1.5 million out of that. This whistleblower, this Carmella guy's got he's almost got $1 million in his GoFundMe now. And the left, they get to commit real crimes. They get to either destroy a person's reputation or nearly kill them physically. And they set up GoFundMes, and everybody's like, oh, okay, we'll send you money. Now you can be a millionaire. I think somebody should set her up a GoFundMe. I think that would be, I think that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, you ready for the next story, Dyer? Oh, this one's
Timber.
This is a you and Timber story.
It's a you and Timber.
It's a me and Timber. I want to make it a you and Timber. You wrote this. You
made things that aren't highlighted.
You made this bed. You gotta lie in it.
All right. You and me, Timber. So, hey, Timber, do you know that PMS is a social construct?
No, it's not.
Silly, Timber. Well, if you know, you only say that because you've been told that PMS that it's really a thing. But in fact, PMS is just as much a social construct as sex is.
But sex isn't a social construct.
Oh, Timber. You just believe that because you're a bigot. A bunch of left-wing articles have been published this last week about how PMS isn't a real thing. It's not a biological thing at all. But it is, in fact, as one journalist, Frank Burrs, referred to it as, it's a cultural syndrome.
Well, Frank's article also went on to say that PMS was similar to cultural idioms of distress or fake disease. So they have to explain fear or symptoms they don't understand. They use the example of how in Cambodia, people believe it is possible for the wind in your body to become reversed or blocked. That's normally a dick down your throat. Sorry. They are called wind attacks, which they believe causes dizziness, shortness of breath, numbness, and fever.
They also use the example of how some people in Nigeria actually report to believe their penises have been stolen by black magic. And no, their penises are not actually missing. Some of the Nigerians say that this that's right. Some of the Nigerians that say this aren't even men, and they're saying that their penises have been stolen by black magic. Both of these examples aren't real things. There is no scientific basis for the wind in your body getting reversed or magic stealing your penis.
I disagree. I think that Swalwell had the wind in his body reversed very severely.
And he's missing a penis.
Yes. I think that I think there's now and I think he's got PMS.
The Cambodians are using the wind attacks to explain the symptoms of the common cold and dehydration. The Nigerians are culturally taught to be terrified of black magic and believe it can do anything. This can create hysteria, like a person believing their dick is missing. These are very different from premenstrual syndrome, which is a very real, measurable, predictable, and observable condition.
You're not doesn't sound like you're being very supportive, Dyer. you better watch your words there. You both got wives.
Exactly. I know this stuff.
That's what we know.
It's for first-hand knowledge.
Yeah. Oh God, my mother's PMS. Everybody lived out of the house for about a year and a half.
All right. That's a long cycle we got there. Anyways, moving on.
The key argument at the foundation of all the articles claiming PMS is a cultural construct is that they believe we have no evidence linking hormones to menstruation. This is an argument of ignorance. This is an argument to ignorance fallacy, claiming that they are not aware of evidence, so it must not be true. This is absurd because there has been a lot of studies into PMS, and we do know what causes it and why. Just because they don't know what causes PMS, it doesn't make it fake. They then go on to say that women in other cultures they go on to say women of other cultures don't experience PMS the same way based on personal accounts.
The real test is whether or not you can read Dyer's typing. That's your test tonight.
Everyone makes errors. You just gotta learn to self-edit as you go.
Some make more than others.
Yeah, some make a lot more than others.
I read it right first, then I went, no, I read that wrong.
There's a lot of reasons that women in other cultures might not use PMS as an excuse for their symptoms. Maybe they live in a culture where they are not permitted to express themselves. Maybe they're treated like property, like certain cultures. Maybe if they voice their opinion, they get smacked. Maybe they're in a culture that hasn't taught them what PMS is. They literally don't have the words to describe what they are feeling. That doesn't mean they don't feel the symptoms. It means they don't know what to call them, or that, or they call them something else. Either way, how people describe PMS in other cultures is a cultural construct. PMS itself, the chemical change in the body and how it affects a woman, is not a cultural construct.
I don't get this whole idea of like declaring something a social construct and therefore it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter if it, like, let's say it was a social construct. are we just gonna tell all the girls like, okay, well your experience is that's not relevant. You can't do it, because that would mean that we can apply that to other things, like being a goddamn SJW. That's not a social construct. Like, hey, you thinking Orange Man bad? That's just a social construct, man. You better stop doing that. You thinking I'm a racist, or you thinking I got white privilege? That's just a social construct, man. Stop feeding into that crap.
Right. So they're saying that it's not just how we refer to it that is the cultural construct. Clearly that is. That's just how we describe it, right? They're saying that there really isn't a symptoms that's all in their heads. They don't become more irritable and more frazzled because they have trouble with memory. They're not having cramps. It is all just in their head because it's a cultural construct. There is two parts to it. How you describe the thing, and then what it is actually physically happening. Well,
let's be blunt here. What they're really saying then, if they're saying that there's no physical link between PMS and then women acting as though they've got PMS, what they're really saying is that every woman in the world is just acting like a bitch once a month, just to act like a bitch.
Hey, it's their argument, not ours. Their argument, not ours.
I mean, if his beliefs was also true, it would turn around and basically say that men have their periods is full of shit too.
Well, maybe that's how they got a hold of this idea, is because the trans men, the biological females, or no, the trans women, the biological males, they're not having PMS and symptoms. So maybe that's why they're getting their data sets skewed.
Maybe.
Well, here's the reality. Psychology Today explains that your brain depends on hormonal secretions to function. Ovaries in women create the hormones estrogen and progesterone.
That's progesterone.
Progesterone, which are referred to as sex hormones, but they perform many more functions in your brain beyond how they affect your sexuality. For example, the brain has many receptors that interpret and understand the chemical language of estrogen. It has been proven that changing levels of estrogen affect the parts of your brain that affect your memory and mood. A lot of research has gone into studying these changes.
A lot of research has gone into these studies because they use them for women-centric medicines. So yeah.
Well, that's the other thing too. So the science is in, and I think that some of the people involved in this research, they must know that the science is in, that there are hormone changes. So for them to sign on to this, they're saying that those hormone changes don't affect your actual like physical sensations or your state of mind. So reapplying that logic to the trans issue, why do you need hormone replacement therapy? It doesn't change your physical effects or your mental state at all. Why would you need hormone therapy? Gender's just a social construct, man. You don't need hormones to do that. Come on.
It is a proven fact by a mountain of evidence and research that these hormones do affect how your brain functions, and it does affect your mood and your concentration. The hormones are not just for your sexuality; they're how your brain functions. So if they have an imbalance, your brain doesn't function as well or functions differently.
I would really love to see during like the impeachment hearings, Trump just be like, Russian collusion's a social construct, and just have people like some people would just like evaporate. They would cease to exist. They wouldn't be able to process it, and they would just disappear.
So we take a look at this graph. We have also researched how menstruation affects the levels of estrogen and progesterone in the brain. If you look at this graph, you can see how both of these hormones drastically increase and drop off sharply at certain points during a woman's menstrual cycle. These changes in hormones are very well documented. They happen for all women. Yes? You kind of cut out there for a second.
I think somebody's phone just went off. I do want to cut it in though. I want to clarify. Is this science? Is this research? Is this white Western science research?
Yes.
Oh well, then that's probably where the problem's at, Dyer. You gotta come on, man.
Oh, because it was done by a country that's predominantly white, I must throw out all scientific knowledge. I'm sorry, you're completely right. How could I have not seen this?
And am I seeing days here? Is that time? That's such a Western colonial concept. This idea of time and days. This research is completely invalid.
Right. So as you can see on this graph, at certain points in their cycle, there is drastic changes in those two hormones. And we already know that those hormones have a marked link to a person's mood, someone being able to have a stable mood, and also someone's ability to concentrate and think logically. So I'm just saying, we can see that we know those hormones have an effect on those parts of the brains and how the brain functions, and we know that those hormones change drastically. It only stands to reason then that during these changes, those brains would have different levels of functionality in those areas, more specifically their mood. And it's also, not only do we have the data to show why this is happening and how it's happening, we can also see the results.
I'll direct everybody's attention to chat real quick, where Triumvirate is planning some kind of coup to use Nigerian black magic to steal all the penises and end the patriarchy.
Hey, you know what?
Godspeed.
In Nigeria, sex change operations are very cheap.
Abracadabra. Oh my god.
Oh my god, he took it away.
Why? God, then that would be so easy to win a war against them. You just walk in there and just be like, yeah, we cast some hoodoo and like all your penises are gone, and it would just collapse their entire society in an hour. It'd be like the Rick and Morty thing when they turn the galactic currency to zero. One last spot here.
Yeah. So PMS is proven to be a real thing by years and years of biological research. But why are they trying to spread the absurd lie that it isn't? Is it because they want to pretend that there is no real difference between men and women? Most likely.
I think that might be part of the motive here, is to try to pretend like we're all the same. And
so are period blood paintings, are those
on the lower hierarchy?
Are period blood paintings a social construct too?
I guess they have to be, because apparently that's not real. It's all in their head.
That's a pretty good racket from the tampon companies. they tricked half the population into believing that they needed
the pink tax right there.
Yeah, that's a good racket.
Yeah.
All right.
Might start selling tampons.
Yes. There's like I'll make it quick because I don't know how else it would ever come up, but I knew somebody who worked in the factory that handled the Always tampons, and the stuff comes in like gigantic, like 10-ton rolls of like the absorbent material, and you have to wear these like really high level protection suits anytime you're around it, because if like even like a tiny dust particle like lands in your eye, it will absorb your entire eye. That's how absorbent it is.
Shit.
Yeah, so working at a tampon factory is like, it's like worse than working at a nuclear reactor. It's so dangerous.
Jeez.
Which I thought was hilarious.
It's kind of like, well, not quite as bad as Quick Clot back when it was the powder.
Well, that sounds like a bad idea.
Quick Clot turns your bodily fluids, particularly blood, into rock.
Yes.
And you have liquid in your eye.
Yes, you do.
It's bad.
Alrighty. Well, now that we've done this story to death, and I'm sure, I'm sure you guys won't be at the hands of your wives later tonight. Let's move on to the next story. Alrighty.
All right.
AOC. Oh God, that's this bitch. She's always on her period. AOC takes a victory lap over being a failure because there's nothing else that she could be. She's probably what's that?
She was born that way and she'll always be that way.
Yes. The Raw Story is a liberal newsletter created in 2004, marketed as the left-wing counter to the Drudge Report, because it really needed a left-wing counter. On Friday, the 6th of November, the Raw Story published an article titled "Ocasio-Cortez takes a victory lap after Amazon goes to NYC, even after she helped block $3 billion in subsidies." What they are referring to is when earlier this year that AOC led an effort to block the building of a new Amazon headquarters and warehouse that would have employed 250,000 people and raised $27.5 billion in taxes alone over the next 20 years. Not to mention all of the just interacting with the economy that everybody else would have been there. They were planning on building a new campus. There would have been, billions for construction workers. They would have been. Yeah. She sank this deal for NYC because the state had promised Amazon $3 billion in subsidies, or so she called them, to encourage them to build there. AOC thought that the state was giving Amazon $3 billion, when in fact NYC was just giving Amazon a $3 billion discount on their taxes, which was dependent on them actually having something that would generate taxes.
Right. What AOC did was bad for New York. New York needed the money to rebuild their crumbling infrastructure, including their subways and trains. New York needed the 25,000 jobs, good paying jobs at Amazon that they would have offered. Not only that, the building of this facility and the related companies in the area would have created a total of 107,000 new jobs, not just 25,000 people working at the actual warehouse and headquarters, but many more jobs in the people building the facilities, the brand new warehouse, and all the other companies in the local area that are also related to this job. The state of New York may have promised to reduce their taxes by $3 billion, but that was out of the $27.5 billion they would be paying in taxes. And they also had agreed to pay $2.5 billion. Amazon had agreed to pay this $2.5 billion to invest into the local neighborhoods. So basically, they're only getting a reduction of $500 million anyways, because their part of the deal was to give more money to the community. And that's the $27.5 billion is tax money. That is not even counting the untold billions of dollars going into the local economy because of this deal. The people of New York, and even the Democrat governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, said that AOC should be held accountable for their lost economic opportunity. People were pissed off with AOC for a good reason.
And he's the smarter of the Cuomo, so
I know,
you can
right?
trust that he knows how to do the math.
So even Andrew Cuomo, pretty left wing and bad governor in my opinion. Even he called out AOC because his government had worked hard to try to convince Amazon to go there. And then she goes and fucks it all up. So after the deal failed,
does she even economics?
No, she has a degree though.
How do you think taxes work?
Yeah, she got I believe her degree is from Stanford, right?
Boston.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Very,
just as bad though.
Very, very premier school apparently.
Yeah. After the deal failed, AOC claimed it wasn't her. Well, during it, she was claiming it was all her, right? But then when it failed and everyone got mad at her, she's like, "Oh, that wasn't my fault. That wasn't even my district, even though you were protesting in it." Even though And she was claiming it wasn't her, even though she clearly was the head of the movement, the loudest voice calling out Amazon, saying they shouldn't be there. Because of her, Amazon decided to build their warehouse and headquarters in Virginia, giving their tax money and jobs to Virginians instead. Good for them. AOC doesn't understand economics in the slightest. She doesn't realize that New York is in competition with every other state to attract companies like Amazon. And that's why they're giving them a tax break, because New York has one of the highest tax brackets, and they're trying to convince them to come here so they can get taxes from them.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, 2.7 or 27.5 billion. Sorry, the number is so big I keep forgetting. The 27.5 billion in tax income minus a $3 billion tax credit. Is that more or less than $0 of tax income?
It is more, but you're forgetting that part of that deal was also to invest $2.5 billion into the local neighborhood. So essentially, they were paying not really a tax, because it wasn't going to the city, but it wasn't going to the government, but it was going into the infrastructure of the city. So it kind of was a tax, right? So really, they were getting a $500 million discount.
Which is actually exactly what that 2.5 billion would have been, exactly what I guess the socialist would be interested in. Is, let's not even worry about the government. The public companies should be, they should be good stewards of their environment. They should just be willfully giving all of their money away to people. And Amazon was trying their hardest to do that, and AOC is like, no, absolutely not, good sir. I love too that the I don't think it's in this part, but one of the big issues that they had, in addition to the $3 billion tax credit that she thought was real money that they were giving to Amazon, it was just money that they weren't collecting from Amazon. She should understand that. She looks like she's got that coat looks like it was pretty goddamn expensive. I bet that was a $500 coat. I wonder if she went to Nordstrom to buy that $500 coat and they had a 10% off deal. If she just didn't buy that coat, would she walk out of the store with $50 in her pocket? Would she get upset at Nordstrom for not just giving her $50 to not buy the jacket?
Good analogy. Your turn.
Oh, is it? Well, fast forward to my part. Fast forward to 6th of December, and the Raw Story published a story about how Amazon decided to open a sales and advertising office in Hudson Yards, New York, that will employ 1.5 thousand people. Now, this is a good thing, but it is far less of a good thing than the original deal that she destroyed. AOC also had absolutely nothing to do in negotiating this deal, and yet somehow, after she had, over the summer, when it was shown that her being involved with this was a bad thing, and she said, oh, no, I wasn't involved in this isn't my fault at all. After all of that, now she's saying, oh, well, this is somehow proves that I was right all along. she look how smug she is. She thinks that she did that herself. And you can see her tweet right there. Me waiting on the haters to apologize after we were proven right on Amazon and saved the public billions. Yes, they saved them approximately $25 billion in income. They saved them from getting that $25 billion in income. It's so dumb, and she's so smug and happy about it.
What about the local neighborhoods that we're going to receive, like a local store and restaurants and stuff near them that were canceled because those were part of the $2.5 billion in investment into the local community?
Yeah, but instead of the $2.5 billion, now they're going to get an imaginary, non-existent burger. $3 billion. She saved them $3 billion, Dyer. Don't you feel it coursing through the economy right now?
Oh.
No? Oh.
Those 25,000 people are not feeling the jobs they don't have either.
Hey, you know why, Dyer? Because $3.5 billion or $3 billion tax credits are social constructs.
That makes sense.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So no one is going to apologize to you, AOC. You're still wrong. Nothing changed. Amazon isn't building a new warehouse. They are leasing an existing office building, and they're employing only 1.5 thousand people. She's bragging about Amazon not giving a $3 billion reduction in, or not being given a $3 billion reduction in their taxes, but it probably won't even, this deal that is now happening probably won't even bring $3 billion to the state revenues. Well,
it's probably not even going to be $3 billion of economic activity, because part of the story is that the place that they're putting this office in, they are renting an existing building. Yeah. So there's not going to be any construction going into the New York. There's no construction people going to get that. There's not going to be any. There would have been so much economic activity building a brand new headquarters from scratch. And now they don't get any of that.
Yeah, this is way like microscopic in comparison to what was going to happen. It's 6% of the jobs created. This is 6% of the jobs that could have been created. And also these two events. I mean, Amazon might have bought or employed these 1,500 people anyways, even if they had the headquarters. This isn't an either or thing, right? They could have done both.
Well, we know that they would have done both, right? Because they aren't just not ever going to build a new second headquarters for 25,000 people. They're not just going to not ever do that now. They're going to do that somewhere else. So
they already did. It.
So presumably they would have done that in New York, and then also still needed a place for 1.5 thousand marketers.
Right. So this is completely separate. These both could have happened, and she can't claim credit for this because she wasn't involved in negotiating to make this deal happen. And as Fox had brought up earlier, I believe, at least to me, that the place at Hudson Yard, where these jobs were created by Amazon, also have a deal for tax subsidies. They're paying reduced taxes as part of being in this facility. So it's more than Amazon was going to get for their headquarters.
Percentage-wise, but yes.
Percentage-wise, yeah.
It's I would I would love to just see her while she's instead of her doing a little periscope about her building a IKEA desk or something, or trying to figure out what the hell a garbage disposal is. I would love to see her just do a live stream where she sits down with a white piece of paper and a pencil, and she shows us the math that's in her head right now, that has her face looking so goddamn smug. What numbers are floating through her head right now? And to be honest, Dyer, you should have done the the Hangover edit where you got the numbers floating around her head on this picture. That would have been perfect. But I want to sit her down with a white piece of paper and a pencil and have her walk me through this. What is it? We all know that it doesn't work, right? But I want to know what it is that she thinks works. I want to know how she's arrived to the smugness answer in her head, where she's like, "Damn, I just saved New York $3 billion. There's $3 billion more dollars flowing through New York right now." And I mean, gosh, if I actually got my city $3 billion, like real dollars, I would look that damn smug too. But she didn't. So I want to know how she thinks that she did this.
She's an example of how stupid people can be very dangerous. Like, we should not elect someone with an IQ as low as hers, because she's actually destroying people's lives.
And that's not being like mean or anything. Like, she actually has, like, this is evidence that she actually has a very low IQ. Like, not that we can say for sure what it is, but this is evidence that she has a low IQ.
Like,
a lot of evidence.
I mean, she's missing some very clear logical steps here. She is not a smart person.
And these are the people, her specifically, Because she actually put out a full plan on it. She actually had the balls to put out a full plan on it. These are the people who want to take over and centrally plan the entire economy. She can't even do a basic addition problem, and she thinks that she can centrally plan the entire economy. And she even wrote a plan explaining how she would go about doing it. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dyer. These people are extremely dangerous. Very dangerous. She should not have power. This is why there should be some kind of test to run for office.
Yeah. I mean,
all I know is if we had $3 billion for my town, that'd supply our average budget for 25 years.
I would be surprised if there was like all the towns within 100 miles of me probably don't add up to $3 billion.
Yeah.
25 years, baby.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, now that we've gone through this dumpster fire, do you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
She would be actually this next story. If she lived in California, she would probably be susceptible to this law.
I think so.
I think that this law would cover her pretty specifically. Alrighty. I suppose I gotta get started off here. All right. A new California law allows the state to put homeless into internment camps. Wow, Dyer, you didn't frame that title at all.
It's sarcastic. I said sarcastically.
You're supposed to italicize it then. See, all right, see, watch.
Okay.
All right, and now it's sarcastic. I italicized it in the notes for those that can't see it. Occupied socialist dystopia California, and that is not sarcastic, that is accurate, stands on the precipice of fascism, or fascism as it looks like it's spelled. And next year, the California residents will be voting on whether or not to take the plunge into full-fledged fascism. The serfs of California have been made to wallow in filth, and I believe that is serf as in not the surfers, which I read it like that, but I believe we read serfs as in servants, of California have been made to wallow in filth and plagued by diseases and high violent crimes, high unemployment, and a complete lack of freedoms and basic rights guaranteed under the Constitution. One of the major symptoms of the mismanagement of Democrat rule over the state has been the rocketly high homeless rates.
The Democrat elites of the state have the Democrat elites of the state have devised a controversial plan to deal with the homelessness. The plan revolves around forcibly institutionalizing the homeless that have mental disabilities. This plan has been described by people, including Tim Pool, as the state of California punishing people for being poor by imprisoning them and taking away their personal property. Now, it is very possible that California Democrats would take even a well-intentioned law and use it to take freedoms away from their citizens. However, before we can judge this law, we need to see what it actually says.
Yes, I am racist for saying white paper earlier, Shadow Wolf, and yeah, sorry, Cece. I know I'm using the word fascism as if I mean it to mean something that is no freedoms and a centralized authority that is bad. I know that that's not the definition you use for it, but that's the definition we're using. You'll have to deal with it for a while. Sorry about that, man.
He uses fascism to mean it's a party.
Yes. California Democrat Senator Scott Wiener proposed a bill that gives the government the power to...
Why are there so many wieners in government?
Because they're all dicks. I
don't know. Why do you think all the bombs and missiles are shaped like dicks or dildos?
Dyer, how else would the government screw you over? They need a lot of dicks to screw you over that hard.
Yep.
The government, the bill that Mr. Wiener proposed to give the government the power to institutionalize the homeless people who committed crimes whom are a danger to themselves or others due to mental health issues. unless, of course, that mental health issue has anything to do with being trans. The way this bill is proposed, it does not give the government the power to permanently intern people for being homeless, as Tim Pool and other, I would guess I would call them outrage mongers, have suggested. That said, the power this bill would give to the government of California would be extremely easy to abuse, because the Democrats have never met a law that they haven't loved abusing.
Exactly. So, but here's what the bill actually suggests. It says that crimes done by homeless people will no longer be ignored. Right now in California, if a homeless person shits in front of someone's storefront, the police won't arrest them because they're homeless, and they're like, well, where else are they gonna poop? So they're not charging them for. There was a story a while back where they were letting people steal small amounts of food from stores. They're like, well, they're homeless, they need food. So we're not going to charge them with theft because they're stealing to survive.
Oh, that's like a new law. There's like a petty theft limit where you can have you can steal $999 worth of stuff, and it's not prosecuted now. That's why they got those like flash rob things going on there.
Right. So the first part of this law is to say no more ignoring crimes by homeless people. They will arrest and they will prosecute.
I thought pooping was made legal in California.
Right. So it's not illegal now. This is a bill to make those things that would be normally illegal again. So, being homeless, they clarify though, even though that they're saying they're going to prosecute homeless people who commit crimes, they are not going to make being homeless itself a crime. They had to clarify that for some reason. I'm not sure why. It's kind of vague. They also said that the counties with 100,000 or more residents shall create a special benefits treatment and therapy courts. Yes, that is the official name of the courts. It's a long name. But they're going to create these special courts that deal with people who need specialized treatment and therapy courts. They go on to say the use of these courts will be that any homeless person who breaks the law and is ruled by the court to be a danger to themselves or others due to mental illness, not because they're just an evil person, they will be given a conservator or someone who will be assigned to them as an advocate who will advocate on behalf of them for securing housing, financial assistance, social safety net programs, and all that stuff.
This sounds like social work with like extra steps.
No. Basically, the conservator is a social worker who also has control over your life for a short period of time.
Well, they have that already in a lot of states,
right?
Actually, but the homeless person has to go into a shelter and then ask for it. So,
well, that's kind of that's the third part. So they get a conservator, and then they're also sentenced to mental health treatment at a facility, basically not a prison, but basically a asylum, basically a mental health hospital,
a safe place for them to stay.
Right. So they are basically, instead of going to a jail, they go to be jailed in a mental hospital, along with they have someone who is an advocate who's assigned to them, basically a social worker who will probably have many people they're assigned to. Right. These courts can sentence mentally ill homeless individuals to no less than 90 days, but no more than 364 days. And and it includes that if they are given a clean bill of health by the mental health hospital, they can be released earlier than that. So it is not indefinite internment. It is not giving up all of your personal belongings. It is they're taking you to a facility to try to get you mental help and then return you to society instead of taking you to a prison if the reason why you're committing crimes is because you're homeless, because you're mentally ill.
What's up?
I mean, say whether or not you agree with the bill or the law, that's what it says.
Yeah. It is clear from the intent of the writer of the bill that this bill is meant to take mentally ill people off the street and provide them the services they need to return to society as a at least self-sufficient member of society. This addresses the real problem that was created back when mental institutions were shut down in the past. And they were shut down for a good reason. They definitely needed reform, but, I think Dyer's going to go into what the issues with those were.
Yeah, between 1955 and 1994, insane asylums and mental hospitals, which were basically just insane asylums with a nicer name, were shut down, which released 487,000 patients into the streets. Most of them became immediately homeless and unemployed. These numbers have only increased over the years as more mentally ill people had nowhere to go and no one to care for them. Those asylums were not shut down, were shut down for decent reasons. The hospitals had too many patients, not enough staff, and not enough resources. They were very expensive state-run programs. This resulted in horrific conditions for patients. This bill may seek to fix the problem created by closing mental hospitals, but it could just create those same conditions again. They may just end up with an overloaded. They may end up with being overloaded with patients that will make the program become exponentially more expensive, and they will become underfunded, resulting in the same reduction in quality of care that resulted in the insane asylums being shut down in the first place.
That sounds expensive. Let's see here. So there is a problem of giving the government the power to institutionalize a person just because they are diagnosed as mentally ill. This wouldn't be a problem if we trusted the community of doctors that would be making the determination, like psychiatrists. However, we live in a world where being conservative is considered a mental illness, while being trans disabled, i.e. wanting to cut your own leg off or blind yourself or cut your dick off, that is not mentally ill at all. So the issue here comes from if the traditional definitions of the words are being used. Yeah, it sounds like an idea that maybe we could try. It doesn't sound like a wholly terrible idea. You know, again, depending on the execution of it, you know, depending on whether or not we can maintain those facilities in a humane condition, which is a pretty big if. You know, it's very easy for those sorts of things to go very wrong. But the entire premise of what is and isn't mentally ill, that has been a hotly debated topic for the last decade. And now they're talking about basing a bill on this word that has a very disputed meaning.
Yeah. I really don't have faith that people in the Democrats in charge of California would define mental health the way I do.
Now, Dyer, were you able to see whether or not these courts that they were talking about, are these going to be some kind of independent judiciary, or are they going to be subject to the regular court system? Or
they're regular courts just that deal with a specialized problem.
Okay, so it'd be like family court, which is underneath like the regular court system. It's just deals with a specific thing. Okay,
exactly.
Well, maybe Trump getting just oodles and oodles and oodles of judges into every state and every circuit. Maybe that'll make this a little bit more palatable.
Possibly. The intent of the bill and how it's written is not what Tim Pool and others outrage mongers have said. It doesn't let the government institutionalize anyone indefinitely. That doesn't happen at all. It is also not unprecedented for to have someone sentenced to serve their jail sentence in a mental hospital. That actually happens already. That this is modifying that process. It's not something new. However, it's important that this bill specifically restrict the government from ways it could misuse this law, right? Because I can see how it could be misused quite a bit to diagnose people as being mentally ill when they're not. And also, I could imagine that someone could be constantly, say, retried and could be put there indefinitely by being put in there for a year at a time, and the court constantly retrying them.
It's certainly not unprecedented in California to have the legal system railroad people. Kamala Harris, for instance, railroaded the guy who whistleblew on Planned Parenthood selling baby body parts for Lamborghini money. And they railroaded the crap out of him and put him into jail, and they coordinated the entire legal apparatus of the state to go after him. So there is, again, because the idea in general with the real definitions of words seems like maybe we should try this. Because it's happening in California, it makes everybody a little leery, because this could be a new lever for the just absurd corruption in California to pull on to harass their political enemies. That this could very easily be used something like
absolutely.
that.
So the other problem is, there's the first problem is we don't trust California Democrats to not abuse this law. The second thing is there would have to be clear restrictions on how big the program could be. There is going to have to be a maximum amount of money that they say that they're going to invest towards these courts and towards the treatment and towards the mental hospitals. Because if you don't set a maximum, you just say anyone who gets that is homeless and has a mental illness can be tried by this court, and then you'll have a huge influx, and you'll have too many people going through this court process, resulting in really long waits to go through the court. And then when they get through the court finally, you'll have too many people going into the mental hospitals that the mental hospital can support. Too many people assigned to each individual conservator, so each conservator is not really providing the appropriate attention to each case, and could be mistreating individual people because they're just treating them like a number rather than actually knowing what's going on with them. The hospitals could descend into very poor conditions because of lack of people willing to work there and a lack of support, resources to fund them and care for all the people.
Well,
and
California's already severely underwater on their budget. I have no idea how. Right. Again, I don't think it's a terrible idea, but there's these practical limitations that you've got to deal with, and one of them is paying for it, and I just don't think California can pay for it.
So even though I don't think that they have the money to do it at all right now, it just starting with the precedent or the assumption they're going to do it, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a budget for things. You have to put a limit on it. And what bothered me when I read the bill in its entirety, there was no limit on how big this monster could become, and so
know when AOC gets primaried next election, I think that she would be a great accountant for this, because she could find all kinds of money for him to spend.
Yeah, all the money that they're not giving to every person in the state, and then just have that money.
Yeah, exactly.
See, if I say, Fox, I'm going to not give you $3 billion, I now suddenly have that $3 billion I didn't give you.
Is that why you cut my pay? Jerk.
What pay?
Exactly. This actually, I was thinking about this. How would they pay for it? When Dara and I were talking about this last week, kind of offline, and we actually covered a story about 2 months ago about the state of California was working on a secondary banking system just for their state, where they would be able to borrow money from it, and they would be able to do what's called monetization, where they're able to have a certain amount of money in their state bank and then lever that into 10 times that amount, so that they can give loans to themselves that they wouldn't be able to get loans from real banks, but they can just and they're doing it with US dollars. So my assumption reading the story is how they're going to pay for it was linking it to that previous story, where they've got these new hybrid state bank things they've made, and they're just going to borrow money from themselves that they can't pay back, but it's still going to be generating inflation across the entire country because they're still using dollars. And so the rest of us will get to pay for this system through inflation, lowering the value of our dollar, and they just won't ever pay themselves back. It's a big racket.
Get to pay for. Yeah, it sounds like we're getting shafted pretty hard.
Well, his name is Wiener.
A whole new meaning to being serviced by the government.
I don't think that's what I think service is the wrong connotation there. Moving on before this gets totally out of hand.
Oh, jeez. So the next story is a short one. I just want to discuss it with you guys. So as you guys probably know, Kamala Harris.
She looks very sad.
Yeah, she does. A little vexed right now.
Sad Kamala. Damn.
Yeah, she has ended her campaign, and it's really no surprise because she's been hovering around 3.4% in the polls, according to a Real Clear Politics average. She peaked at 15% back in June and July, and then she was publicly murdered by Tulsi Gabbard in a debate and suffered a steep decline in the polls, and it also suffered a complete inability to collect donations. So she initially brought in like $11.6 million, which actually puts her like in 5th place as far as money's generation is concerned. Not actually terrible.
Trump brought in that much money the first 37 minutes after Nancy announced they were going to impeach him.
Right. Trump has brought in more money than all the Democrats. Sorry, 10 times more than all the Democrats have together.
I still get those emails.
Yes. No, her money was nothing compared to Trump. It wasn't bad initially, but after June, July, like the donations dried up pretty hardcore because no one wanted to support her after she got murdered in the face by Tulsi.
I said it once and I will say it again as God is my witness. I cannot believe that being a time-traveling pothead slaver wasn't a winning strategy. I thought for sure she would win on those qualities alone. I was very wrong.
Yeah. It's not surprised at all that she did not stay in the race. But what I did find not surprising but hilarious was all of the news coverage after she got out saying how sad it was that the Democrat Party no longer had any diverse candidates. And it was all white people.
Cory Booker, look at me. Look at me. I'm Cory Booker. I'm your black man. I can be your black man. Look at me. Look at me.
Cory Booker with like $3 million donations and like 1% of the polls. He's like, hey, I can be your diverse candidate. Everyone look at me.
I love how not just that they were completely ignoring that Booker hasn't dropped out yet because he is black and he is in the race. They've got, I think half the current candidates are women, and and
one of them's a Native American.
Yeah, one of them's a Native American. The other one's actually, I mean, Tulsi's actually Hawaiian ancestry, which is actually a minority. It's actually
She doesn't exist right now. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, Hawaiian minority is actually a very minor minority. There's not very many actual Hawaiians out there, and they're just completely ignoring her.
There's like 1 or 2 in Congress Hawaiian.
Well, didn't Kamala's dad say that they weren't even black? She was just Puerto Rican. I'm 90% sure that he said that. I could be
I don't
wrong.
know. I can't verify that. But it's still hilarious that you said it.
There's a rumor. There's at least a rumor that she's not even black.
There's less evidence of that than that freaking what's her name? Elon fucking brother.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, married her brother. We don't know if they actually had relations, but probably did.
What we do know is that her former husband watched.
Yes. What a cuck.
Yes. Because remember, he really likes being called that, and if we keep calling him that, he definitely won't sing about what he knew and when he knew it.
Yeah, I mean, she did paint him as a cuck, so he's not saying anything about that, so he must really enjoy the title.
Yes.
We should definitely.
If you're not a cuck, Mr. Omar, I mean, you could at least tell us what happened.
Yeah, that's an option.
Yes, it is.
I do want to remind everyone that we are collecting money for Operation Homefront. Currently, we have $200. It actually came from Timberwolf. That is sitting to go towards, at the end of December, we're making a donation for Christmas towards Operation Homefront. So if you want to be a part of that, just donate anything through Streamlabs and say in the comment that it's for Operation Homefront, and we will make sure that money in its entirety goes towards that cause.
Alrighty.
And it's also time to get off YouTube. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, I hate to break it to you, but YouTube doesn't really like us very much. And it's only a matter of time before our channels get shut down. So you might want to go to the link below and go follow us on DLive. DLive is a platform where if you have a YouTube account, you already can just immediately log into DLive real easy. It takes just a moment. Use the YouTube information and then go to our channel that is linked there and give us a follow. That way, even when YouTube nixes our channel, you can still keep up and follow the show. So thank you very much, people on YouTube, but we turn you guys off halfway through the show as a way to encourage you to follow us in DLive. So
and
please
as
follow
you
us
can
over there.
see on your screen right now, what our next topic is, you'll definitely want to come to DLive to find out what's happening.
Absolutely. It's going to be the most exciting story that you guys haven't heard anything about.
It's actually going to be a lot of fun because I made a lot of custom video clips that Dyer doesn't know that I made, and they'll be funny. Or they won't be funny, and I'll just say that it was Dyer's fault that I'm so bad at editing.
That seems reasonable.
Yes.
All right. So goodbye, YouTube. Moving on. Please follow us on DLive.